Hey, I'm Mark Sullivan, and it's been 18 months since I got laid off at 52. I still remember that day pretty clearly. It was a Tuesday, March 14th. I was on a Zoom call. My manager, Karen, and someone from HR I'd never met before. Her name was on the screen, Jennifer something, but she had her camera off, and I knew immediately. You just know, They said something about restructuring and eliminating positions, and I stopped listening. I remember nodding. I remember saying, I understand. But I don't think I understood anything. I was 52. I'd been with the company for almost a decade. And just like that, it was over. And the thing is, I thought I'd be fine. I've got skills. I've got experience. I'll just find another job. That was 18 months ago. And I'm still looking. I've sent out. I stopped counting after 300 applications. And I'd hear nothing. Or I'd get to a first interview and they'd see my face on the Zoom call and I could see it in their eyes. I'm too old. They don't say it, but you can feel it. And after about 6 months of that, I had this moment where I was sitting right here at this table and I checked my bank account and I had $340 left and my rent was due in a week. And I realized nobody's coming to save me. No job offers coming. I have to figure this out myself. So that's what I've been doing. And today I want to show you what's actually working. The things that are keeping me afloat right now, because I know a lot of you watching this are in the same boat. You got laid off, or you're about to, or you're just tired of being invisible, and you need to know what your options are. But then 2008 happened, the financial crisis, and I watched people I respected lose everything, their jobs, their homes, their retirement savings. And there was this woman, a mentor of mine, and she was in her late 50s, and she got laid off. And I remember seeing her in the parking lot after they told her, and she was just broken, crying, because she didn't know how she was going to provide for her family. And that shook me, because I realized that could be me someday. So I read this book. It was called Your Money or Your Life, and it taught me this concept of life energy. That every dollar you spend represents hours of your life that you traded for money. And if you're not careful, you end up trading your entire life for things that don't matter. And that shook me, because I realized that could be me someday. So I read this book. It was called Your Money or Your Life, and it taught me this concept of life energy. That every dollar you spend represents hours of your life that you traded for money. And if you're not careful, you end up trading your entire life for things that don't matter. So my wife and I, we got serious about saving. We lived below our means. We invested aggressively. We maxed out our 401ks. We put money into index funds. And over the next 20 years, we built up enough that we weren't dependent on my income anymore. We were close to financial independence, maybe even there already. But I kept working anyway, partly out of momentum, partly because I still enjoyed parts of the work, and partly because walking away from a six-figure salary is harder than you'd think, even when you don't need it. I remember this one project. This was maybe 10 years ago. We were launching a new product line, and I was leading the whole marketing strategy, and I worked insane hours. I was up at 5 a.m. taking calls with the UK team, and then I'd be on calls until 9 p.m. with the West Coast team. My daughter Emma was 12 at the time, and she had this school play. She was playing Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, and she'd been practicing for weeks, and I promised her I'd be there. And the night of the play, there was this emergency client meeting, and I told myself, it's just one play. There'll be other plays. So I missed it. And when I got home that night around 10 p.m., she was already asleep. And my wife had taken pictures, but it's not the same, And the next morning, Emma didn't say anything. She just said, "It's okay, Dad. I know you were working." But I could see it in her eyes. She was disappointed, and I told myself, this is temporary. Just a few more years. Just get through this busy season, and then I'll have more time. But there was always another busy season. And then there was this guy I worked with. His name was Michael. He was 57. He'd been with the company for 22 years. He was one of those guys who knew everything, every client, every campaign, every system. and they laid him off. This was about 3 years before they laid me off. And I remember we had this goodbye lunch for him. And Michael gave this little speech, and he was trying to be positive, but you could tell he was devastated. He kept saying, I gave this company everything. And 2 weeks later, they hired someone to replace him, a kid, maybe 28 years old. And within a month, it was like Michael had never existed. And I remember thinking, that's never going to be me. I'm too valuable. I'm too good at what I do. And then it was me. But before that happened, there was someone else. Her name was Sarah. Sarah was on my team. She was 49, single mom, 2 kids in high school. And she was one of those people who she held everything together, you know. She was the one who remembered everyone's birthday, who stayed late to help junior staff with their presentations, who always had the answer. And she got sick, ovarian cancer, stage 4. And she kept working through chemo because she couldn't afford to lose her health insurance, because her kids needed her, because she thought if she just kept showing up, kept proving her value, the company would take care of her. And I remember visiting her in the hospital. This was about a week before she died. And she looked so small in that bed. And she said to me, Mark, I gave them 20 years. And you know what? They're already interviewing my replacement. She died 3 days later, and at her funeral, nobody from the company came, not the CEO, not her direct manager, not even a card, just me and a few other people from the team and her 2 kids who were 16 and 18 and who were now alone. And I thought about Sarah a lot when the layoffs started coming. So when the layoffs came, I wasn't surprised. There had been several rounds already, and I heard through the grapevine that my name was on the list, but there were other names too, younger people on my team, people with kids, people who didn't have the financial cushion I had. And when my manager, Karen, pulled me aside before that Zoom call, she said, Mark, we have some flexibility here. If you were willing to volunteer for the package, we could keep some of the junior staff. And I thought about Sarah, and I thought about Michael, and I thought about all the people I'd seen get thrown away over the years. And I said yes. So that's how I got laid off. I chose it, to save people who couldn't afford to lose their jobs. And I don't regret it, but it's complicated because even though I had the financial cushion, even though I didn't need the money, losing that identity, that purpose, that structure, it's been harder than I expected. And the thing that really got me, the thing that still gets me, is how fast they forgot about me. I worked there for almost a decade. I gave them everything, and within a week my email was deactivated. My name was removed from the website. Someone else was sitting at my desk. And I thought about Michael, and I thought about Sarah, and I thought about all those hours I'd missed with Emma, all those weekends I'd worked, all those vacations I'd cut short because of some urgent project. And for what? Emma's 22 now. She's in college, and we're not that close anymore. And I don't know if it's because of all those years I wasn't there, or if that's just how it goes when kids grow up. But last month she called me, and she said she's thinking about dropping out because she can't afford tuition, and she doesn't want to take out more loans, and she's working 2 jobs just to cover rent and books, and she's exhausted, and she doesn't know if it's worth it. And I wanted to help her. I wanted to say, don't worry, sweetheart, I'll cover it. You focus on school. But I can't. I'm making $796 a month. I can barely cover my own rent, and that breaks my heart more than anything, because I already missed so much of her childhood. And now I can't even help her build her future. And it's not just Emma. My wife, Jennifer, she had a health crisis earlier this year, a stroke. She's okay now mostly, but she's partially disabled. Her left side is weak. She can't drive anymore. She needs help with things. And I'm grateful I'm here. Grateful I can be present for her in a way I wasn't when I was working 70-hour weeks. But it also means I can't just take any job. I can't go back to those insane hours. I need flexibility. I need to be here. And that's another reason why these side hustles matter, because I can do them from home. I can stop in the middle of the day if Jennifer needs me. I can build my schedule around her physical therapy appointments. So it's not just about money. It's about building a life that actually works for the people I love. And I realize now, after 30 years of missing Emma's plays and working through weekends, that tomorrow isn't promised. Jennifer's stroke taught me that. Sarah's death taught me that. We don't have unlimited time, and I'm not going to waste what's left. So yeah, that's who I was. And now I'm sitting here at my kitchen table trying to figure out how to survive, how to be present, how to build something that matters. And some days I'm angry about it, and some days I'm just tired, but I'm still here, and I'm still trying anyway. All right, so the first thing I did, and this was like a week after I got laid off, was I started selling stuff on eBay. And I know that sounds desperate, but I was desperate. I needed cash immediately. So I went through my house and I just started grabbing stuff. There was this old laptop I wasn't using anymore, some textbooks from college. I don't even know why I still had those. A bread maker my ex gave me that I'd used maybe twice. And I took pictures with my phone and I listed them on eBay, and the laptop sold in 2 days for $180. And when I saw that notification, I actually cried a little bit because it was the first money I'd made in a week, and I felt like maybe I could actually do this. Over the last few months, I've sold probably 35 or 40 items, and I've made about $200 total. But here's the thing nobody tells you. eBay takes a cut, about 13%. So right off the top, that's $155 gone. Then PayPal takes another 3%, so that's another $40. And then shipping, I screwed up the shipping costs on like half my listings, so I had to eat the difference. That was probably another $80. So after all that, I actually made about $925. Over 3 months, that's like $300 a month, which is not nothing. But my rent is $100. So you do the math. And the other thing is, once you run out of stuff in your house to sell, you have to start sourcing inventory. So now I'm going to garage sales on Saturday mornings, digging through boxes of old dishes and VHS tapes, hoping I find something I can flip for $10. And sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't. Last weekend, I drove 40 minutes to an estate sale because the listing said they had vintage tools. I got there and everything was picked over. I bought a rusty hand drill for $3 and sold it for $8. After fees and gas, I made like $1. There was this one sale, though, about a month ago. It was at this older woman's house. Her name was Dorothy, and she was selling her late husband's stuff. He'd been a woodworker. And I was looking through his tools, and Dorothy started telling me about him, how he'd worked at the same factory for 40 years, how he'd retired at 65 and finally had time to do woodworking. And then he died 6 months later, heart attack. And she said he waited his whole life to do what he loved, and he ran out of time. And I just stood there holding this old chisel, and I thought, that's going to be me. So yeah, eBay's still bringing in a little bit of money every month, but it's not sustainable, and it's exhausting. And every garage sale reminds me that we're all just one layoff, one illness, one bad break away from having strangers pick through our stuff. Oh, and one more thing. If you're watching this from outside the US, like if you're in the UK or Canada or Australia, eBay works a little differently. The fees are different, shipping is way more expensive, and in some countries you have to deal with VAT. So just keep that in mind. So the second thing I tried, and this is the one I'm most excited about, is Substack. Substack is a platform where you can write a newsletter and charge people to subscribe to it. So it's like having your own little media company. And I got into this because I saw a video about it at like 2 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I was up worrying about money, and I thought maybe I can do this. So I started writing. And at first I wasn't charging anything. I was just writing for free, trying to build an audience. And I was writing about the same stuff I'm talking about in this video. What it's like to get laid off in your 50s, how to make money without a job, how to deal with the fear and the shame and the uncertainty of it all. And people started subscribing, and they started emailing me. And some of them were going through the exact same thing I was. And it felt, it felt good to not be alone. After a couple months, I had like 200 free subscribers. And then I turned on paid subscriptions. And I was terrified because I thought, Why would anyone pay for this? I'm not an expert. I'm just some guy who got laid off and is trying to figure it out. But I did it anyway. I charged $5 a month or $50 a year, and people signed up. The first person who became a paid subscriber, I remember exactly who it was. Her name was Linda. She's 61. She got laid off from a nursing job after 30 years, and she sent me an email that said, "Thank you for being honest about this. Everyone keeps telling me to stay positive and it'll work out, but you're the first person who said it's okay to be scared. I feel less alone." And I cried, like actually cried, because I realized this wasn't just about money, it was about connection. Right now, I have about 450 free subscribers and 35 paid subscribers. And those 35 people are paying me every month. In the last 3 months, I've made about $520 from Substack. Substack takes 10%, so I keep about $468. That's like $156 a month. Now here's the thing. I'm spending a lot of time on this. I publish 2 or 3 times a week, and each post takes me an hour or 2 to write, so I'm putting in maybe 6 to 8 hours a week, and if you do the math, I'm making like $5 or $6 an hour right now. But I don't care, because this is recurring revenue. Every month, those 35 people pay me again. And as I grow my audience, that number goes up. If I can get to 100 paid subscribers, I'm making $500 a month. If I can get to 200, I'm making $1,000 a month. And that's real money. And the other thing is, I actually like doing this. I like writing. I like connecting with people. I like hearing from readers who are going through the same stuff I am. Last week, someone emailed me. His name is Robert. He's 58, got laid off from a tech job, and he said he'd been thinking about giving up. And he read one of my posts, and it gave him hope. And he said, "Thank you for reminding me I'm not the only one who feels like this sometimes." And that's worth more than money, because here's the thing. When I was working in corporate, I spent 30 years building campaigns and strategies and presentations, and none of it mattered, like really mattered. I helped sell products that people didn't need. I made rich companies richer. And at the end of the day, what did I actually contribute to the world? But this matters, because I'm actually helping people. Real people like Linda and Robert who are scared and alone and just need to know someone else understands. So this is the one I'm betting on long term. This is the thing I think could actually turn into a real business. If you're not in the US, Substack works everywhere. People can subscribe from any country. All right, so before I get to the last thing, I need to talk about something that nobody else covers, and that's benefits. Because if you're in your 50s like me, this isn't just about making money. It's about making sure you don't screw yourself over with Social Security or health insurance or taxes. So let me break this down real quick. Social Security. I'm not collecting Social Security yet. I'm only 52, but I've been thinking about it a lot because if you start collecting early at 62, there's an earnings limit. In 2024, it's about $21,240. If you make more than that from working, Social Security will start taking back some of your benefits. So if you're doing gig work or side hustles and you're on Social Security, you need to keep track of how much you're making. Because if you go over that limit, you could end up owing money. Health insurance. This is the big one. This is the one that keeps me up at night. When I got laid off, I had COBRA for a few months, and it was $980 a month, just for me. No dental, no vision, just basic health insurance, and I couldn't afford it. So I let it lapse, and then I signed up for insurance through the ACA marketplace. And because my income is low right now, I qualified for a subsidy. So I'm paying about $200 a month. But here's the tricky part. The subsidy is based on your estimated income for the year. And I honestly don't know what I'm going to make this year, so I estimated $25,000. And if I make more than that, I'll have to pay some of the subsidy back at tax time. And if I make less, I'll get a refund. But I'm terrified I'm going to owe money because I don't have money to owe. And the other thing is, I'm 52. I've got 13 years until I'm on Medicare. and I don't know how I'm going to afford health insurance for 13 years. I had a scare last month. I had chest pains. It was like 3 in the morning, and I woke up and my chest felt tight. And I lay there for like an hour trying to decide if I should go to the ER. And I didn't go because I was afraid of the bill, and I know that's stupid. I know I should have gone. But that's where I'm at, and I think about my old job and how I used to complain about the health insurance, the co-pays, the deductible, all of it. But at least I had it, and it was good, and I didn't have to worry. And now I'm sitting here hoping I don't get sick, because if I do, I'm screwed. And I think about Sarah, how she kept working through chemo because she couldn't afford to lose her insurance, and how it didn't matter in the end anyway. I think about Michael sometimes, too, the guy I told you about earlier, who got laid off at 57. I ran into him about 6 months ago at a grocery store, and he looked broken, like he'd aged 20 years and 3. And we talked for a few minutes, and he told me he's been doing DoorDash, 12-hour shifts, no health insurance. And some nights he's been sleeping in his car because he can't afford rent and gas and food all at the same time. And he said, "Mark, I'm just trying to make it to 65. That's all I think about now. Just making it to 65, just making it to Medicare." And I hugged him. And after he left, I sat in my car in that parking lot and I cried. Because that could be me. That is me if I can't figure this out. And I think about Michael every single day. Medicare. Once you turn 65, you're on Medicare, but Medicare doesn't cover everything. You still need a supplement plan, and those cost money. I'm not there yet, so I don't know all the details. But it's something I'm trying to learn about now. If you're watching this from outside the US, you probably don't have to deal with this stuff. If you're in the UK, you've got the NHS. If you're in Canada, you've got provincial health coverage, so you're lucky. But for those of us in the US, this is a huge deal, and it's something you need to think about before you start doing side hustles. All right, last thing, YouTube, which is what you're watching right now. I started this channel 4 months ago, and honestly, I didn't think anyone would watch. I just thought maybe I'll document what I'm going through. Maybe it'll help me process everything. Maybe I'll feel less alone. And then people started watching and subscribing and leaving comments, and it was, I don't know, it was kind of amazing. Someone left a comment last week that said, "I'm 58 and I got laid off 6 months ago and I thought I was the only one. Thank you for making me feel less alone." And that's why I keep doing this. I got monetized 2 months ago. And in the last 3 months, I've made about $680 from ad revenue. Now, each video takes me like 3 to 4 hours to make. I'm not a professional. I'm just sitting here with my phone and a $20 microphone I bought on Amazon talking. And then I edit it, which takes forever because I'm still learning. So if you do the math, I'm making like $7 or $8 an hour. But here's why I'm doing it. YouTube is how I'm building an audience. And that audience is what's driving people to my Substack and to everything else I'm doing. So it's not just about the ad revenue. It's about the whole ecosystem. And the other thing is, I actually like doing this. I like talking to you guys. I like hearing your stories in the comments. I like feeling like I'm part of a community. Because the truth is, getting laid off is lonely. You lose your coworkers. You lose your routine. You lose your identity. And you spend a lot of time alone in your house, wondering what you're supposed to do with your life. My daughter Emma called me a few weeks ago, and she asked how I was doing, and I started to give her the usual answer. "I'm fine, everything's fine." And then I couldn't do it anymore, and I told her the truth. I told her I was scared. I told her I didn't know if I was going to make it. I told her I was sorry for all those years I wasn't there. And I told her I was sorry I couldn't help her with school. And she was quiet for a minute. And then she said, "Dad, I'm proud of you. You're trying. That's more than a lot of people do. And I'm going to figure out school. We're both going to figure this out." And I don't know if she really believes that, but hearing her say it helped. So yeah, I'm going to keep doing YouTube, even if it never makes me a ton of money. I think it's worth it because it's connecting me to people and it's giving me a reason to get up in the morning. If you're not in the US, YouTube works everywhere. But ad rates are higher in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. So if most of your viewers are from other countries, you'll make less per view. Okay, so let me add it all up. I'm making about $300 a month from eBay, another $113 from some books I published on Amazon, $156 from my Substack, and $227 from YouTube. Total, around $796 a month. My rent is $700. My health insurance is $200. My car insurance is $90. Groceries are probably $300. Utilities are another $150, so I'm short about $1,044 every month. And I'm covering that gap with my savings, which are running out. I've got maybe 4 more months, maybe 5 if I'm really careful. So no, I haven't figured it out yet. I'm not sitting here telling you I've got it all together, because I don't, but I'm trying. And these things are keeping me afloat, and they're growing slowly, but they're growing. And more importantly, I'm not sitting around waiting for someone to hire me anymore. I'm not refreshing my email every 5 minutes hoping for an interview. I'm not wondering why nobody wants me. I'm building something, and that feels good. Look, I spent 30 years trading my life energy for money. That's what work is, right? You trade hours of your life, hours you'll never get back, for dollars. And I was good at it. I made a lot of money. I built a financial cushion. I achieved what most people would call success. But I also missed Emma's childhood. I missed being present for Jennifer. I watched Sarah die working for a company that forgot her a month later. I watched Michael end up sleeping in his car. And I realized all that money, all that success, it didn't buy me the things that actually matter. Time with my family, purpose, connection, freedom. So now I'm trying something different. I'm building something on my own terms, where I control my time, where I decide what matters, where I'm not trading my life energy for someone else's profit. And maybe it won't work. Maybe I'll run out of money. Maybe I'll have to go back to corporate. I don't know, but at least I'm trying. At least I'm choosing how I spend my life energy now. Sarah didn't get that choice. She died working for them. And they didn't even send flowers to her funeral. Michael is sleeping in his car, just trying to make it to 65. Emma is thinking about dropping out of school because I can't help her. Jennifer needs me here, present, in a way I never was before. And I think about Dorothy's husband, who waited his whole life to do what he loved and ran out of time. I'm not going to let that be me. I'm 52. I've probably got 20, maybe 30 good years left, and I'm going to spend them on things that matter, on people I love, on work that feels meaningful, not on building someone else's empire. The future is the undiscovered country. It's unwritten, and I get to write that story now. So if you're going through something similar, if you've been laid off, or you're thinking about leaving, or you're just tired of trading your life for money, I want you to know you're not alone. There are thousands of us, maybe millions, people who are figuring out what comes next, what really matters, how to build a life that's actually worth living. People like Sarah, who gave everything and got nothing back. People like Michael, who are just trying to survive. People like me, who are trying to build something new from the wreckage, and we're all just trying to figure it out. So leave a comment. Tell me your story. Tell me what you're building, because I want to know, and maybe we can figure this out together. I'm Mark Sullivan. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.